Special good morning to you. This is another episode of the Morning Brew live on NTN. We are coming to you from the Government Information Services Studios. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Jessie Leonce. If you're watching on air online, a special good morning to you. Residents here in St. Lucia, St. Lucians living in the diaspora, we really appreciate you tuning in to get the latest updates from the government of St. Lucia. In our 24-hour news cycle, we have the CXC results being released at 5 p.m. yesterday. That was the 22nd of September 2020. We did hope to have speak with Dr. Fiona Philip Meyer, that is the Chief Education Officer today, but she has scheduled a presentation to be made tomorrow, Thursday, the 24th of September 2020. We do hope that you tune into NTN for that. Hopefully, we give you some more information as to the exact time. Also, Prime Minister Honorable Alan Chastanet makes a case for global assistance to small island developing states amid COVID-19. A multi-agency collaboration is afoot to restoring the island's lighthouses. Also, the Department of Labor is urging compliance with the work permit requirements for employment of foreign nationals in St. Lucia. We have a press release on that coming from the department, and we get an update overall on the work of hotels and the guests' reviews of the new normal within the tourism sector on island. We've so far gotten word that we've welcomed 6,000 visitors to the island so far, and we will be hearing on how they have been treated, and their reaction to the protocols that have been put in place for the protection of the population as well as themselves for the duration of their stay in St. Lucia. We also have a few infrastructure updates. We have the Formager update, the new Oleander Avenue Road under construction, and a gentle reminder that tomorrow the Blackstone Road in Jackmel will be closed to facilitate the final phase of that project, and I believe that is the paving of that of the sidewalk. So please take note of that. We have the details to those stories and more coming up right after this break. Whatever you're drinking this morning, whether it be coffee, some bush tea, some cocoa tea, some hot chocolate, we do hope you huddle with us for the next half hour or so as we bring you these important updates. Stay with us.
She's been watching, waiting, wondering when the sands of time will give way to a tide of change, and for yesterday and today to become a new tomorrow. For a time when her sun can kiss the cheeks of your loved one, and her stars can twinkle in her honeymoon skies. When her earthly embrace will reassure and calm your soul. And her unique view can change your whole perspective. Proudly, she has risen to meet new challenges and to provide safe harbor to all who reach her shores. For her hopes and dreams still stand, shoulder to shoulder, a precious reminder of experiences yet to come. So, wherever your moments and memories take you, let her sense of adventure set you free. She is St. Lucia. Let her inspire you.
When a hurricane is approaching, safety of life and the preservation of livelihoods is most important. We should take heed. Take chickens and other domestic birds into a building and place them safely in a cage or box if possible. Release larger stocks such as cattle in an open field area. Tying animals increases the chances of injury. Check on animals early and move them to a safe location away from riverbanks and areas likely to have landslides. Provide enough water and feed to prevent them from breaking out. Remove cots from under trees and remove the wheels for added protection. Chemicals, fertilizers, and other toxic materials, such as sprays or pesticides, should be stored in the safest sections of a building, as they may cause fires if mixed. In the case of flood-prone areas, these should be stored above the historical waterline. Remember, This is the hurricane season, and we should be prepared. A message brought to you by the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, Physical Planning, Natural Resources, and Cooperatives.
Thank you so much for staying tuned. This is the Morning Brew live on NTN. Today is observed globally as the Day for Sign Languages. The United Nations General Assembly has proclaimed the 23rd of September as the International Day of Sign Languages in order to raise awareness of the importance of sign language in the full realization of the human rights of people who are deaf. And just to read from the United Nations website, International Day of Sign Languages is a unique opportunity to support and protect the linguistic identity and cultural diversity of all deaf people and other sign language users. In 2020, the World Federation of the Deaf is issuing a Global Leaders Challenge. This challenge aims to promote the use of sign languages by local, national, and global leaders in partnership with national associations of deaf people in each country, as well as other deaf-led organizations. And just to give you an understanding of the extent of the use of sign language in our society, according to the World Federation of the Deaf, there are approximately 72 million deaf people worldwide, and more than 80% of them live in developing countries. And collectively, they use more than 300 different sign languages. So please take note of that as we observe the International Day of Sign Languages today. We definitely appreciate the interpreters and many others who rely on sign languages to get by and to communicate here on planet Earth. We continue with news this morning right here in St. Lucia. The Department of Labor is urging compliance with the work permit requirements for employment of foreign nationals in St. Lucia. According to 3171 and 2 of the Labor Act, a foreign national shall not engage in any occupation in St. Lucia unless there is in force in relation to him or her a valid work permit or exemption, and he or she is employed in accordance with the terms and conditions specified. And we just have some cards so that persons understand the extent of this press release and the importance, the significance of this appeal being made by the Department of Labor. The Department of Labor therefore wishes to remind employers and employees of this requirement and advises foreign nationals of persons wishing to employ foreign nationals to apply for work permits in the prescribed manner. Persons who currently in violation of the above are required to regularize their employment status by October 31st, 2020. Failure to comply with the provisions of the Act may lead to legal action being taken, which can result in fines or imprisonment on summary conviction. If you want some more information, some guidance, you can contact the Work Permit Unit of the Department of Labor at 468-2707 or 468-2710. Please take note of this release coming from the Department of Labor. In more news this morning, Prime Minister Honorable Alan Chastanet on Monday, 21st September 2020, participated in the Clinton's Global Initiatives Building Back Greener, a renewable energy and sustainable tourism session moderated by former U.S. President Bill Clinton. We have a report on that event.
The Clinton Global Initiative CGI Action Network is focusing on resilience efforts in the Caribbean amid the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. Prime Minister Honorable Alan Chastanet told the forum that the economic fallout is severe for St. Lucia and the Caribbean, with the main economic driver, the tourism sector, reeling from the crippling effects of global lockdowns, job losses, health system strains. Since the pandemic unfolded, St. Lucia has experienced a 50% decline in tax revenue. That represents a fiscal gap of $600 million for the government. The national debt to GDP ratio has climbed to 85%, rolling back the strides government made in reducing the debt to GDP below the 60% benchmark to 59%. Prime Minister Chastanet says not only is government collecting less revenue, but COVID has added cost to the operation of government.
We have no idea what's going to happen next year. So is there going to be a continual reduction of tax revenues, and therefore is there going to be another gap that we have to finance? So the impact has been severe. And then on top of that, Mr. President, we have a situation where our expenditures have gone up. So we've had to put in social stabilization programs. We've had to, like Prime Minister Motley, build a new hospital, a respiratory hospital. We've had to run hotels here to allow our nationals to come back home, because sadly, voluntary quarantining doesn't work. So therefore, we have to have a quarantining. All these have added a significant cost to the government. So at one point, your revenues are going down, and the other point, your costs are going up.
As the Caribbean adapts to coexisting with COVID-19, the threat of climate change poses new challenges. Prime Minister Chasney is concerned that international financial agencies are yet to change pace on how small island developing states, SIDS, are engaged.
OECD still is using per capita GDP to classify access to ODA funds. It still takes in excess of 5 years to get a project off the ground. There is still not a dedicated fund for small island developing states to access for climate change. And the worst part of all of this is that this debt is accumulating, and clearly everybody can see that it's not sustainable and no change has been made. So now with the pandemic, it would be unrealistic on our part to think that there was going to be a global solution.
Honorable Chasney believes that there can be no delay in global action to combat COVID-19. An urgent meeting, he says, is needed to discuss the challenges of SIDS in this new normal.
You would have thought the crisis of climate change would have gotten everybody to the table. It did not. We see what's taking place with the pandemic right now, which is everybody's taking care of themselves. Very similarly to what happened after the financial crisis when the G7 became the G20. But the rest of the world was left behind. There was no space for us at the table. There's never been a plan to figure out how we were going to solve the problems with the debt that we incurred, and nobody cared.
Caribbean leaders have joined Prime Minister Chasney in calling on global airlines to implement a pre-testing protocol in order to manage the spread of COVID-19. St. Lucia and the Caribbean, he says, proves that pre-testing is a safeguard. From the Government Information Service, Lisa Joseph reporting.
Thank you, Lisa, for that report. And before we go to break, a multi-agency collaboration is afoot to restoring the island's lighthouses. SLASPA, the St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority, has collaborated with the St. Lucia National Trust and the St. Lucia Archaeological and Historical Society in its rehabilitation and restoration plans for the Mulashik and VG lighthouses. The lighthouses were erected in 1912 and 1914, respectively. Currently, these historic beacons are suffering the ravages of time and the elements and therefore require rehabilitation. The Mulashik lighthouse is particularly in a state of warranting repair. The dome over time has corroded considerably, and recently it was taken down for safety reasons. SLASPA is in the process of implementing rehabilitation plans for the two lighthouses and has engaged the St. Lucia National Trust and the Archaeological and Historical Society for involvement in these plans. A decision to collaborate on the project was made during a joint meeting of the three parties held on Monday, September 14th, 2020, via the Zoom platform. Upon deliberation, SLASPA, as the custodians of air and seaports here on island, agreed to spearhead the development of rehabilitation plans for the project with an assurance from the National Trust to assist it with creative activities geared at the sustainability of the same. According to the Senior Manager of Business Development and Corporate Communications at SLASPA, that's Gasper George, the lighthouses are of historic and national significance. And for this reason, the collaboration between SLASPA, the National Trust, and the Archaeological and Historical Society will ensure their historic value is preserved in all aspects of the rehabilitation plans to be established. End of quote. A chairperson of the trust, Alison King, is pledging the commitment of her team toward realizing the success of this development, expressed satisfaction at the joint effort of all parties involved to meet the objectives of what must be considered a national initiative. The organizations have agreed to explore mutually beneficial income-generating opportunities from the rehabilitated lighthouses. So that's the word there from the Air and Seaports Authority, SLASPA, in collaboration with the National Trust and the Archaeological and Historical Society on the collaboration that they will be doing to restore the island's two lighthouses, one at Mula Sheikh and in VG. Do stay with us. When we come back, we have more updates coming from the government of St. Lucia. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Jim Joseph, president of the Bosseju Community Group. We believe St. Lucia can win the war against the coronavirus, and here's how. Every community in St. Lucia must mobilize, coordinate, monitor, and support residents the way we would before, during, and after a natural disaster. Identify volunteers in your community, assign them roles, and deploy them. Ensure your elderly and vulnerable understand all protocols. Help relatives, shield them from unnecessary contact with others. Identify those recently unemployed and vulnerable neighbors living alone. Put systems in place to filter updates from official sources throughout your community. Promote the hotline number 311. If it takes a village to raise a child, then all of us can come together to defend the village against the coronavirus. Let's do it.
Together let us win this war. Say you shall be a soldier. Together we can beat this corona.
Oui, tout le monde. Je n'ai pas eu encore. À nous célébrer, plus mais passer l'année passée. À nous aller. Oui, chanter. Oui, chanter. Oui. Chanter en l'air d'idée. Manger qu'à préparer. Mon habillé belle. En hâte, tradition, tout seul. Bagaille en temps longtemps. À sous exhibition. Dernier dimanche, ma octobre. Ou kaitan pour y plus souvent.
On social media, YouTube, Facebook, and IGTV. Sunday, 27 September from 2 p.m. Découvrez cette liste. Découvrez Paul.
Thank you so much for staying tuned to the Morning Brew live on NTN. We continue with news that we've received so far from the Pan American Health Organization. With 458 deaths, PAHO is stressing the importance of prenatal care services, and that's associated to COVID-19 news. We're now in the COVID-19 segment. Since the first cases of COVID-19 in the Americas, 60,458 confirmed cases of COVID-19 were reported among pregnant women. That is including 458 deaths, as I stated earlier, or 1% in 14 countries, according to a new epidemiological update from the Pan American Health Organization. Until September 14th, the highest number of deaths were reported by Mexico, with 140 deaths among 5,574 cases in pregnant and postpartum women, followed by Brazil with 135 deaths in 2,256 women who had COVID-19. The United States had 44 deaths among 20.798 women. Colombia reported 40 deaths in over 2,000 pregnant women, and Peru had 35 deaths among 19,000 pregnant women and postpartum women. Panama had 8 deaths in 525 pregnant women, showing the highest maternal mortality ratio of 10.1 in the country's reporting. PAHO has asked countries in the Americas to step up efforts to ensure access to prenatal care services for pregnant women, noting that recently published results and studies based on COVID-19 surveillance data have indicated an increased risk among pregnant women of presenting with severe forms of COVID-19 and therefore of being hospitalized and admitted to intensive care units. So that is the word coming from the Pan American Health Organization. PAHO's recent epidemiological update notes that over 2 million additional confirmed confirmed cases of COVID-19, including over 74,000 deaths have been reported in the region of the Americas, representing a 21% increase in cases and a 17% increase in deaths since August 26th. So please take note of this, the concerns of the Pan American Health Organization with respect to persons who need to access prenatal care, that is pregnant women, based on the results, the data that they are receiving, that there are some startling figures as it pertains to pregnant women and postpartum women when it comes to COVID-19. They're experiencing more severe cases of COVID-19. In St. Lucia, prenatal services are available, and we do hope at this point, especially considering COVID-19, that individuals, pregnant women and postpartum women, and relatives and loved ones of pregnant and postpartum women ensure that they get the necessary routine care that they need in order to mitigate any risk of contracting COVID-19. And speaking of the pandemic, we do have an update from the tourism sector. We have been hearing from the tourism sector ever since they've reopened. We've reopened our borders here in St. Lucia. We've begun to welcome more and more tourists on island. And as such, there has been a very stringent measures, protocols being put in place to ensure the protection of our population as well as the visitors here on island where they come to stay at the hotels. And we have received word that over 6,000 travelers have so far visited St. Lucia, and we have been speaking to hotels and guests on their experience so far as it pertains to the protocols, the measures that have been put in place for their safety. Take a look.
So we now have a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 a.m. shift. What that allows us to do is to actually better manage staff transportation. It allows us to manage staff arrival to the resorts, their locker facilities, as well as their lunch facilities as well. So everything is staggered. So nobody's congregating in any area at any one point in time. We've totally remodeled our staff locker rooms. We've added additional washroom facilities, additional shower stalls, because our key departments shower at the resort as well as their uniforms getting laundered here. So no dirty linen goes out into the communities. So what we've even done is to ensure that we have 2 sets of masks. We have our normal Ladera mask that we use here, but everybody changes their mask when they're leaving the property.
They made sure that we sanitize. They told us that they sanitize, and also the car smelled like it was sanitized. Like
yeah, even my luggage was sanitized.
Yeah, so I thought that was very good as well. So I felt really safe, actually. And, you know, the driver wore the mask the whole time. We wore the mask the whole time. So I thought it was really safe in general.
You did not know when this was going to end or start, right? So as you can see, we did a lot of work in the whole hotel. We were able to keep about 75% of our employees working during different staffs. Our employees were very excited to be able to work, but at the same time, very accommodating. So a butler will be painting rooms, a server will be cutting wood, you know, so whatever it took to make sure that we keep our employees working.
Whatever it is that you're doing is working, and it makes us feel safe.
You feel safe?
We definitely felt safe coming here. You know, you guys are practicing the social distancing. Everyone is wearing their masks, which makes us feel safe, even though the excursions are limited.
We got to the airport. We had plenty of time to get through security and TSA, and you know, everyone knows the mask policy, so you just wear the mask when you're supposed to, and we all were told exactly what the policies were beforehand.
Afraid to travel, St. Lucia would be the place to do it, because at least, you know, you're gonna feel safe. You know, especially just like you said, just coming out of the airport. You know, everything is very organized. You know, and even here at the resort, the fact that they check your temperature before at security, they have you visit the nurse before you even check in with the admin office.
It's a beautiful place. I was worried about the weather, it being too hot, even though we're from Florida, you know, do a lot of climate controlled activities and stuff. So to come somewhere that you know, only has 3 walls, you can't kick on that AC if you want to. I still love it, and I could see us coming back.
During this pandemic, and we see this back in the States really anywhere you go, but we've seen it here more so than ever, is that it brings people closer together. The resort's just done a really nice job to make you get make you forget about all the hardships going on in 2020 and just actually enjoy and relax and get to have an experience like nothing else before.
We feel super safe. There's no concern about COVID here.
Just an update, we're hearing the voices of visitors to the island as well as hoteliers on how they've been putting measures in place for the protection of their visitors and also our population with our borders being reopened. And the tourists are saying that so far the experience has been wonderful. They definitely do feel safe, and that leaves, that leaves the comparison with other jurisdictions, other territories where they are grappling with the effects of the pandemic. Cases are soaring and you don't know where to turn when you're in those particular areas and not have to deal with the risk of COVID-19. Thankfully, in St. Lucia, we have been able to manage the pandemic to the degree that visitors can once more visit the island. They can enjoy what we have to offer. Our tourism sector can resume, but all within, again, very strict measures, very stringent protocols to ensure the continued safety of all involved. We are due for another break. When we come back, I just want to remind you also that speaking of tourism, just to segue, the recreational facilities on the island are reopening slowly but surely. We have the Botanical Gardens and Diamond Falls reopening, I believe, this week or last week. And they've been putting measures in place as well. Hopefully we could get to speak to the management of that facility to tell us how residents of St. Lucia can enjoy these recreational facilities. Again, stay tuned. We're due for another break. When we come back, we have some updates from the Ministry of Infrastructure coming up right after. Stay with us.
In a world where germs are widespread, comes a group of superhero germ busters, the germaphores.
We spend most of our time fighting germs, every day of the week. After I play, I wash my hands. Before I eat, I wash my hands. After I play with my puppy, I wash my hands. I cover my sneezes with my forearm or elbow when I am in public. And I cover my cough to avoid spreading dangerous germs. We are the germaphores, germ-busting superheroes. You can be too. Always wash your hands and cover your sneeze and cough. Let's stop the spread of menacing germs.
We'll be back, germaphores, with more powerful germs.
And we will be waiting to prevent you from spreading.
When a hurricane is approaching, safety of life and the preservation of livelihoods is most important. We should take heed. Fishers, move boats and fishing vessels to higher grounds or safer holding spaces. Secure boats by tying them with rope and chains. Boats can also be secured by filling them with sand and sunk for protection against high winds. Collect all fishing pods and place on land in a secure holding area. Protect fishing nets by weighing them down and securing them where they will not be washed away by flood waters. Store all electronic and navigational equipment such as GPS and radios in a dry, safe place. Secure both engines and spare parts. Avoid the spillage of oil and lubricants by storing your supply in an elevated, secure area. Evacuate low-lying coastal areas. Do not for any reason go out to sea if storm threatens, as the strength or wind speed could change unexpectedly. And keep monitoring the weather system by listening to official advisories from NEMO and the Met Services. Remember, this is the hurricane season, and we should be prepared. A message brought to you by the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, Physical Planning, Natural Resources, and Cooperatives.
Thank you so much for staying tuned. We're now down to our final segment of this morning's episode of the Morning Brew. We saw on the Prime Minister's social media an update on the Oleander Avenue Road, and he did indicate, we did hear word from him that the new Oleander Avenue Road, weather permitting, will in 4 months' time be completed. It was previously a dirt track connecting the community of Carolee and Leclerc. So in 4 months' time, the new Oleander Avenue Road, weather permitting, which was previously a dirt track, will connect the community of Carolee to Leclerc. This new road will serve as an important and convenient alternative road for motorists and emergency vehicles. In more updates from the Ministry of Infrastructure, the Blackstone Road reconstruction project in Jackmel moves into its final phase this week. We did mention it earlier this week, but it is a gentle reminder as there will be some developments starting from tomorrow affecting the public. The commencement of paving works on Thursday, September 24th, 2020, that is tomorrow. Weather permitting again, this job is to lay a concrete pavement along 667 meters of road. It is scheduled to be completed in 2 days. As a result of the paving works, the entire road will be closed to vehicular traffic for a period of 7 days. Vehicle owners are encouraged to make the necessary preparations. And of course, the Department of Infrastructure apologizes for any inconvenience caused that may put them in some predicament. But they thank residents also for their patience and understanding. If you want some more information on this Blackstone Road reconstruction project, you can call with your queries, your comments, your concerns at 468-4300. And finally, the Formager Road Rehabilitation Project is in its final phase. The scope of work includes improvement of the drainage system, the widening of the bridge, rehabilitation of the community bus stop, and a new road surface. We have Shannon Laborn with the details to that in Eyes on the Road.
Well, hello there, and welcome. Well, hello there. And welcome to this episode 4 of Eyes on the Road. We are working for you. On this, our very first stop on this edition of the program, we are here in the community of Formager, where asphalting works are ongoing as part of the final phase of this, the Formager Road reconstruction project. This job brings an end to years of bad roads experienced by the residents here and all road users. Of course, the Formager Road is an important bypass road away from the main Marigot Highway. So how has work been going thus far? We spoke to Ms. Giselle Isidore, who is the engineer responsible for this, the Formager Road reconstruction project.
Hello everyone, I'm Mrs. Giselle Isidore, welcoming you to Formager. We're on our last phase of asphalting the road, and we're very excited because the journey has been a little difficult for the residents who have been patient with us. So we welcome you. Right now, we're putting our last layer of asphalt. We're at the top and we're going all the way down to the bottom at Formager, approximately 600 meters, a little over 600. The scope of works for the project includes the paving of the road, definitely drainage works, the widening of the bridge, and the bus shelter, rehabilitation of the bus shelter. Definitely, our role is certainly to ensure we have top quality, ensure the temperature of the asphalt arriving is correct, ensure they compact adequately, ensure the product at the end looks good. The residents are certainly very excited. We had difficulties with the drainage. We had a lot of drains collapsing because they were very old drains, some of them poorly built. So they are very happy that we replaced some of these sections. And certainly they're happy for a very smooth surface. I just want them to bear with us. Certainly when we're compacting, that they have a bit of tolerance and they're patient with the dust. We're trying to keep everything to a minimal, the noise, that they just bear patience with us and certainly stay out of the way, especially the children, that everybody's safe. The residents of Formager should certainly expect a good product. The contractor will be leaving the sites in a clean state, and we expect a project that will last, a project that will make them proud.
Thank you, Engineer Giselle Isidore, for that update here on the Formager Road reconstruction project. Very soon, this Formager community will be home to the latest in St. Lucia's fast-growing stock of world-class infrastructure assets.
That was Shannon LeBourne with Eyes on the Road, a production from the Ministry of Infrastructure on their work so far in Formager. Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast program for the Morning Brew for today, the 23rd of September 2020. Just to go over the headlines, we've had the results of the CXC July 2020 examinations being released yesterday at 5 p.m. and students, candidates, that is, if you have your center number and your candidate number, you can access your results on www.cxc.org/student-results. And of course, if you do already know your results and it has been favorable, congratulations to you. We are very proud of the work that you have done and representing St. Lucia, essentially. So once again, kudos to you. To go over the headlines, Prime Minister Honorable Alan Shastney makes a case for global assistance to small island developing states amid COVID-19. A multi-agency collaboration to restoring the island's lighthouses, Mula Sheikh and Fiji, undertaken by SLASPA, the National Trust and the Archaeological and Historic Society. The Department of Labor is urging compliance with work permit requirements for employment of foreign nationals in St. Lucia. Also, we got an update on the hotels and guests on this new normal within the tourism sector has been going, how it's been going. And of course, we've been getting very favorable reviews so far. They feel very safe. They feel very comfortable. They can tell that a lot of work is going into their protection and the very sanitary environment at the hotels. And infrastructure updates, we have the Formager update. The new Oleander Avenue Road is under construction, and we're giving you a gentle reminder that from tomorrow, the Blackstone Road in Jackmill will be closed to vehicular traffic from tomorrow for the paving of sidewalks. So please take note of that. And finally, PAHO has asked countries in the Americas to step up efforts to ensure access to prenatal care services for pregnant women, as data shows that pregnant women are at an increased risk for severe forms of the virus. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. My name is Jessie Leon, signing off for now. This has been another episode of the Morning Brew. Do stay tuned for more NTN programming.